The Father in heaven grace for deep wounds. The Father in heaven always stay close to the brokenhearted. Always. He never leave you at your lowest moments. He's always with you. And that's just something to keep in mind always. When you're going through a lot or you already have been through a lot, like I have. And most of the things we go through traumatizing, man. Especially when you grow up with nothing. You grew up on welfare. Maybe you was neglected as a kid. Maybe you was abused. Um, maybe anything. Maybe you was raped, molested, anything. And it's a lot of trauma. You holding in a lot of trauma. These are deep wounds. Maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe you lost a kid. Maybe you lost your parents. A close friend. You know, these are deep wounds, man. Trauma are deep wounds, and the Father in heaven is always there through it all. You get what I'm saying? Like He's not going to leave you during your toughest moments. You know, and He doesn't want you to let those past traumas keep you away from Him. He doesn't want you to let those past traumas hinder your purpose for your life. Because at the end of the day, we all, despite the things we've been through, we all came here to this earth for a reason. It may not seem like it because we distracted by the things of the world, whether it's your job, whether it's people, friends, anything, guys. And sometimes we don't look at the bigger picture. Like, wait a minute, what is my purpose for being on this earth? Because we all have our purpose, but some of us, we so busy with our lives, we don't really take the time to really think about it because we're too busy living life. And it's okay to sometimes sit back and think about it. What is my purpose for this earth? What is my purpose on this earth? Sometimes we forget to ask ourselves that. But we all have a purpose despite the things we go through. And what I do is I use the things that I've been through, use as a testimony to spread the word. Telling people how I overcame those things. And I overcame those things through Jesus, strength through Jesus. That's how I overcame, trauma, the things that I've been through that I wasn't even supposed to make it through. Strength through Jesus, to break those mental bondages, because that's all it is. That trauma is a mental blockage, huge one. That trauma will keep you from living life. It will keep you away from the Father in heaven. It will keep you from repenting because you got a bunch of resentment, or you may feel unworthy of even coming back to the Father in heaven in general. You might feel ashamed because of what happened to you. And Father in heaven don't want you to feel either of these things. He wants you to come back to Him. And if you can, use that trauma as a testimony to help somebody else out, to save somebody else, to steer other people on the right path. Once you overcome your past, the trials and errors of your past, once you overcome it, see, can you be a blessing to somebody else's prayer? Because a lot of us, it's some testimonies out here we never heard before. And a lot of people, they don't want to talk about it because they feel ashamed. They feel like you might judge them or look at them a certain way. That's true. A lot of people are judgmental. And some things, if you're not comfortable with sharing it, don't share it. You'll share it with the Father in heaven. You don't have to share it on the internet. Share it with the Father in heaven. Talk about it to the Father in heaven. Because the Father in heaven ain't going to give you, He's going to heal you. But in order for the Father in heaven to heal you, you have to let go. Father in heaven ain't gonna be able to heal you if you constantly keep holding on to that trauma. It's impossible to heal anybody if they keep holding on to trauma, because once you go back, once you constantly dwelling on that trauma, you're basically ripping open the wounds. So if the Father in heaven was trying to, so if say if he did heal you or try to heal you, if you don't overcome the trauma, if you don't let the trauma go, like I said, through strength through Jesus, if you don't let that go, it's going to keep repeating itself. Those wounds going to keep reopening over and over. You're never going to get over it. And that's why I'm saying, guys, it can be a mental bondage. It could be a mental prison if you allow it. The past doesn't have no power, and it is dead except the life you give them. If you give your past life, then it have life. And if you give it power, it have power. So don't give your past life, and don't give your past power, because a lot of people, they never live their future because of trauma, because of what happened to them in the past. They never live their future. Some people die living in their past. They never got a chance to live their future on the earth. And there's a lot of people in the cemetery like that. And I really don't want you to be one of them, because it's a miserable way to go out, man. Going out holding on to all that trauma and stuff that happened to you in your past, that's the worst way to go out. I do not want you to go out like that. The Father in heaven wants everybody to come to him, despite the things you've been through. So don't be ashamed and don't feel like you're not worthy and coming back to the Father in heaven. So, Satan wants you to feel like that, but like I say, he's a liar. So I got some scripture for you. Psalms 147, verse 3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. See what I'm saying, guys? The Father in heaven heals the brokenhearted. He binds up your wounds, but you have to let him do it. What will prevent the Father in heaven from binding up your wounds is if he bind up your wounds and then you tear the wounds back open. Now it defeats the purpose of being healed. That's why I say you have to let the trauma go, so you can begin your healing process. Okay, Isaiah 53, verse 5. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was cursed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all healed through Jesus Christ. Because at the end of the day, guys, you got to think about this. Jesus paid the ultimate sacrifice. So that's why I always say meditate and focus on Jesus. Because if Jesus would never did what he did, then guess what? We all wouldn't even be able to heal from our trauma. We all wouldn't even be able to overcome the things that we go through on this earth. And we all will face eternal damnation. So Jesus is the reason why we able to be healed, from the things that we go through. But we have to be willing to heal. That's the key word to this whole video, guys, is willing. Just at the end of the day, just let all that stuff go. Past don't have life except the life you give it. Once you keep these things in mind, guys, you can start the healing process. You're gonna be all right.